Welcome to more Gran Turismo 5 Wait a cotton picking minute. That looks like the display from Gran Turismo Sport now, doesn't it? And that looks like a 2009 Veyron that was in GT5. And that looks like Ferrari Enzo that was in GT5. Yeah, I'll be honest. GT4 may not have the dandiest car list. And quite a lot of the cars being used in this race were probably also in GT5, but at least we finally got a track back that was in GT5. Hallelujah! Special Stage Route X is back. So I figured I may as well specialtate a pretty caught-picking good dirty race that I've had at the track in GT Sport. I never would have thought this track would come to GT Sport, but I'm very much glad it did. And I'll be honest, I was kind of dead in the water with GT Sport and kind of in no man's land. There wasn't too much really left to do in the game, except for the odd Tokyo Express versions, Rider Loop weekly race that happens, which is happening. That may be a thing, it may not. There may actually be something different with that too. I'll see how stuff goes. Not guaranteeing anything, but I'm guaranteeing this. This will be a pretty cotton-picking and dirty race, and I'm also gonna go ahead and guarantee that the Viper needs to be made faster in this game. In GT5, I love the Viper. All deadly. I had like 15,000 miles on it. In GT6, the Viper is still pretty good. Wasn't the best, but it was still right there competitive with all the rest of them. Maybe only like 7 or 8 miles an hour off the pace of the fastest car for Red X. In GT Sport, the best Viper goes about 256, 257. Ferrari Enzo, with less horsepower, goes 279. That's 20 mile an hour difference. Draft doesn't make as big of an issue in GT Sport as it did in 6 or 5. Take that as you may, but it doesn't. So yeah, I'll be honest, in 1,035 horsepower racing, which is kind of just a general consensus, especially with this general, I'll get to something in a minute. That used to be the general consensus with this general field, which may be names that y'all may or may not recognize. Let's kind of just run 1,035 horsepower, which I will say is a fairly balanced class, still, fairly. There's a lot of competitive cars in that. The LMPs aren't much faster or slower than the street cars, some of them. The Viper goes to 257, the Enzo goes to 279. The Tomahawk X goes to 87, it's a little bit overpowered. But the Tomahawk Group 1 goes to 73. There's another Group 1, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I remember it goes over 270. The Nissan GTR goes like 275 or so. The Bugatti Veyron goes nearly 280. It's a pretty competitive class. Tomahawk X is a little bit too overpowered. Not gonna say too much because it's Mopar, or S, I might have said X. X doesn't enter in this, but S does. Well, whatever, it's pretty competitive. But now to the actual race and not just the stipulations. This race is uncapped horsepower. Everyone was nice and actually did use street cars. I think the title might have actually said street cars, but yeah, that means the Veyron runs at its full capacity. It's even at its full capacity, again, as I said, it goes a little bit under 280, maybe right at 280. At 1,035 horsepower, it only goes barely 270. I think maybe even on the downhill section, it's barely 270. So, aka, my Enzo is very slightly faster than the Veyrons with like 200 more horsepower. Is that realistic? Probably not, but would it be realistic for me to use a Viper in this race? I would say yes. In real life, Hennessy made some Vipers that go like well over 250. I could very well see someone do a custom Viper go well over 250. Especially all the stuff Dodge can do with their own stuff with Challengers and Chargers and stuff with acceleration. Vipers are really fast on tracks in terms of handling. Challengers, Chargers, and stuff like the Hellcat, and especially the Demon, are crazy fast accelerating. I think someone somewhere out there could combine the two And especially be able to have it combined in a video game. Not have a 1,000 horsepower Viper when they used to make 1,100 plus, be going 257. When there's 840 horsepower cars out there that are fastest in the world accelerating, not necessarily top speed, but then again we don't know the exact top speed of the Demon with an uncapped top speed limiter. I don't know. I don't think it go 257, but y'all get what I'm saying. Realistically, the Viper could be faster. But realistically, the Enzo's would probably be a little bit slower. The Enzo's a very famous car, and in my opinion, maybe slightly overrated, because by the time it came out in 2002, the McLaren F1 was just downright better. The Ferrari F40 and 50 weren't that much worse. And there's other stuff like the SLR McLaren, and a little bit later Ford GT, and I mean, even to an extent, the Viper already at that point were not that much worse. And again, like to an extent, my McLaren F1 and stuff was just downright faster. Should the Enzo be famous? Yes, but is it famous more because of its name than what it actually did? In my opinion, also yes. Sorry if that's an unpopular opinion, but I mean, just look at other cars like that. Ford Edsel. Ford Edsel. Yeah, right. Y'all probably get what I'm saying. But anyway, moving on to the actual race. Yeah, Enzo may not be the best in real life, but in this game, it's very much overpowered, relatively speaking, to the other car. Again, there's not too much that is overall overpowered for the events, relatively speaking, compared to other GT games. But GT Sport, this is one of the more overpowered cars for this type of race. Luckily, no one uses Tomahawk S, but also the Tomahawk is light, and yeah, it's fairly stable, but it's easy to get knocked around. This has a bit more weight to it, and the Veyrons have a bit more weight to it. But they are not nimble whatsoever. My car can just downright outturn them at any point. I don't quite have enough speed to get around because draft isn't as powerful as it used to be, and they're not even close to outturning me. So I can pretty much stay ahead and block however I want. This is pretty much driving with my rear view mirror. Yeah, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it is more predictable in this game than other games. For me, honestly, that makes dirty racing a little bit more boring, but it also makes it look like I'm that much more dominant. Like even there, they got a little bit of a bumper on me, kinda, sorta. Not tons, but I was able to fend it off. Because if they only get to my rear quarter panel and not quite past my rear tire, I'm not gonna get spun out from it now. GT6, that's probably a spin out. GT5, that's almost definitely a spin out. GT Sport, that's supposedly really real driving simulator. I'm more stable going 279 in my Enzo than ever before. Could an Enzo really go 279 with 900 horsepower? Probably not. Could it in general? Yes, but I don't think it quite could have 900 horsepower. But whatever, that's not the point. The other point is there's cars that actually got contact on me. In GT Sport, sort of kind of GT6 and GT5, but especially GT Sport, if you're starting to get loose at high speeds, just hit the wall at right X and you're good. Generally in GT6 and GT5, you didn't necessarily have enough control to be able to hit the wall to have it be advantageous. Yeah, you could aim your car and hit the wall, but maybe at that point you hit it at an angle which just spins you out. If you were spinning out anyway, it's to each their own of what they truly want to have. But in this, you're not really spinning it out enough to where you hit the wall and actually have a chance of spinning it. Instead, it corrects you when you hit the wall. So now, yes, I'm behind, but sort of, kind of. That was on purpose. Because this is where all games are equal in that regard. You never want to be in the lead, coming down to the final bit at red X in a dirty race. Ever. Even with great blocking. If your cars are roughly equal matched, you never want to be in the lead. Because, well, I'll go back for a minute. Yes, that car is looking pretty caught, big and good right now. But also look at this, folks. With a car that's not too much faster than others, I was going half throttle on the draft still. Once I got full throttle, I easily was able to bump that car in front. And I just line up my draft, my car handles that much better, and look at, I basically did like how you bat in baseball. You line it up by holding a bat at a further point back. Different people have different stances and stuff, you get what I mean in general. And then you swing it forward. you don't just hold it like at a 90-degree angle and then swing it forward. You kind of wind it back and then let it go to carry more momentum. Essentially what I did there, and you could do that in all the games. The bottom car is always the preferred line at Route X. Remember that in general with 30 racing? Yeah, you kind of can do some stuff on the top line if you're carrying a whole heck of a heap more momentum, but that's almost impossible to do now in sport because draft isn't as overpowered. Kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing, but sort of makes 30 racing more boring while it is more realistic. Here's why you don't want to be in the lead. When you're in the lead in dirty racing, general trend of dirty racing is boost design. Therefore, yeah, you can try to defend the bottom, but even if you do, that's when the driver could just go to the top, and again, the whole heck of a heap of more momentum than I mentioned before, and what stuff can be used. So okay, it's hard to defend when you're in the lead, especially on the last lap, because yeah, spot before, I was selling blocking and stuff, driving with my rear view mirror. That kind of sort of works too, but you might as well go ahead and try to wreck someone, even if it does wreck yourself this time, instead of just giving small hits. Yeah, that moved that car a whole heck of a heap and barely moved me. Yeah, I didn't even get anywhere close to thinking that I was going to wreck myself trying to wreck anyone else that race. That looked like one of the most dominant races I ever ran. I had the cars exactly where I want them, and that's not even over-exaggerating. The reason I got a little bit spun out and stuff, but not even completely spun out because I could just use the wall, midway through the second lap is, again, I didn't want to be leading. I knew exactly where I wanted to place the car and did it exactly perfectly. Yeah, I'll admit I'm a decent dirty racer, and y'all can make your own opinions on how good the people in this field are if y'all happen to remember these people in the field. But I will say dirty racing is a lot easier to predict than GT Sport, and especially at Route X. So it's honestly not quite as fun. Yeah, it looked like an incredibly dominant run by me. But, for now, well, it's not the dandiest in the world. But I'll just kind of end it as I started it. It looks like GT5 enough right now, doesn't it? All those names are familiar, those cars are familiar, this track is familiar. I did a video on dirty racing and GT Sport. It's different now, and it's kind of hard to fault it because this is meant to be a different game than the other Grand Prix. And this track is welcome enough in this game where there is going to be more of this game on our channel, I do believe. But this still isn't a sustained thing. All the realism you want in the world, if your Ferrari Enzo is faster than a Bugatti Veyron and a Dodge Viper can't keep up whatsoever, it's as hard to sustain a good game in that sense. Especially when this may get its own video, there's still no nitro, there's still no curves, there's still no putting the flaps down with the controller. That gives the wheel users that much of an unfair advantage, plus it kills this track almost completely. Yes, there's no nitro on GT Sport, but one of the funnest things in general to do with this track that everyone does, whether you race dirty or clean or top speed or drag or whatever, is run the tomahawks here. You can't really do that. It may get its own video, but I'm just saying that here to say. Round X is a great addition, but it doesn't save anything right now. And while there is going to be a brief moment of kind of like the old days of more content, that's actually GT Sport on their channel. It's more nostalgia than the real thing. I kind of wouldn't have thought I would say that, but I kind of never thought we'd get this track either, so there is a future, I'll say that, but how long the future is, we'll see. But for now, it still was a pretty fun race, and it looked like a very dominant race by me in Team Mopar. Oh wait, dominance, and that's worth yeehaw. I could be cynical and say because my Viper isn't the dominant one, it ain't, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say that the racing can still be fun with other model cars. Because there's a Tomahawk S too, which may be featured in some stuff as well. So whatever. Yeehaw.